Well, friends, it's good to have you with us. This is another in our conversations with one of our mission partners. Now, we're in a very unique conversation today. We're talking with John Runyon from the Medical Equipment Ministry. Now, the Medical Equipment Ministry is not simply a mission partner of the Pluckerman Presbyterian Church. Medical Equipment Ministry has a long, long history as a ministry of the church, not just a mission partner. They've been part of our church for many, many years, and they continue to grow and they continue to flourish in the work that they're doing. So it's a privilege today to be able to have John Runyon with us. So John, let me ask you if you could just tell folks a wee bit about yourself, how long you've been part of the Pluckerman Church, and what brought you to Pluckerman in the first place.
Well, when we moved to Martinsville, Judy and I, we started looking for a church locally. We visited a number of churches, and neighbors of ours had recommended Pluckerman. So we visited Pluckerman a number of times, months and months, and after a period of time decided to become full members. And we've certainly loved all of it. So I guess it's been 12 years, maybe, something like that, I would say. So Nick grew up in Pluckerman and went through all the Sunday school and everything, became through confirmation at Pluckerman. He was actually baptized in another Presbyterian church out in Hunterdon County.
Okay.
But we love Pluckerman.
So tell us, how did you get involved, first of all, in the Medical Equipment Ministry? Was that just simply the fact that you were at Pluckerman and it was a ministry that felt like a good fit for you?
Well, after Nick had gotten into high school and we gotten through high school, basically, and other things that we were doing kind of tailed off with the band and the Boy Scouts and other things. So there was some time available. I had always kind of been intrigued with the medical ministry. It was kind of a little bit of a mystery out there, what was going on. And but I knew, talking to Tom Ely and Tom Dodd and a couple of the other fellows at the time, that it sounded like an interesting thing. So I remember Nick and I took a look in the chapel one day and decided, well, let's give it a shot and see what the potential is and what is actually happening. And after a short period of time, I realized it was a great fit for me. And actually, Nick at the time or later on was looking for a Eagle Scout project, and it was a really great fit for him as far as what he wanted to accomplish, making an impact through his Eagle Scout project. So the group of people volunteering at that time were stalwarts of the church, people that I knew but perhaps didn't know extremely well. So the fellowship aspect of it was fantastic also, getting to know people more intimately as we got more involved with the program. So, basically at any given moment, my philosophy is you find yourself with an urge to raise your hand and volunteer. And that was my given moment, and we raised our hand.
So we're talking about Medical Equipment Ministry. We're talking about the program. I know there's I think most of the folks who are part of the Pluckerman Presbyterian Church and many people in the community are aware of it. But as you said, back a number of years ago, you went into the chapel where Medical Equipment Ministry was housed because it seemed like it was a bit of a mystery, right? I don't think it's so much of a mystery today to folks in the church, but it might be to some. It may certainly be a mystery to folks who are in the wider community, or other folks who happen to be watching this particular video. So tell us about the Medical Equipment Ministry. What is it? What is the work that MEM, as we affectionately call it? What's the work that Medical Equipment Ministry actually does?
Well, it's a fantastic concept. It's a wonderful program in the fact that the people that are helped in two ways: the people who are donating equipment and the people who are taking equipment out. So the program is basically MEM takes in donated medical equipment, sometimes brand new, never used, sometimes lightly used, most of the time lightly used, and that equipment is then distributed out to people in the wide community, being Somerset County, many other counties in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York. People come and send equipment overseas, South America a lot, into Latin America, and the concept is fantastic. People who have equipment from somebody who's either gotten better after an illness many times, or unfortunately people who have passed away after an illness or an accident, and they have no use for the equipment anymore. They don't want to throw it away. They cannot return it to the source, and they want it to be used to help somebody else. So we get calls from those people saying, can you accept this equipment that we have available to donate? 99 out of 100, we are able to accept. We bring the equipment in. We do a little refurbishing at times. And then in our warehouse, which is the chapel basically, we have that equipment organized, and then it's ready to be distributed to people who need it. So the other half of the equation, people call and they say, I need a wheelchair, I need a bed, I need a walker, I need a cane. And then we're able to provide that, and they come in, pick it up, and then they use it as long as they need it. So there's no charge, there's no time limit. We're able to provide very basic information about equipment, and we also lend an ear. So people often come in, both from the donating side and the pickup side, and they are in a tough situation. They have either they're ill, a loved one is ill, a loved one just had an accident, a loved one has passed away, and it's very therapeutic for them to have somebody to talk to. And our volunteers are very good at listening. We're very good at giving a shoulder to cry on many times. We hold hands many times. We pray with people, and we develop relationships with clients. Many clients come back month after month, year after year, with a loved one that has a long-term chronic illness, and we're able to help them. So the ministry, it touches people in many ways. And then, of course, there's always the fellowship aspect of the volunteers. We have a group of 25 volunteers, people that are church members, people outside of the church that come and volunteer. We're very tight. We're very close. We share our situations with each other. And many of us have individuals that have chronic illnesses, parents who are getting old, parents who have dementia, Alzheimer's, or in nursing homes, and we help each other out from volunteer to volunteer. So it's really a fantastic concept that was developed 10 years ago. We started with one wheelchair. That wheelchair was brought in. That wheelchair was lent out, and then it took off from there. And now the influence throughout the tri-state area is really fantastic.
So you say the tri-state area. How far afield really is the impact? What does that really mean, the tri-state area?
Well, we get calls from New York City on a regular basis. We get calls from Philadelphia, South Jersey all the time, that eastern part of Pennsylvania. We get calls from relatives well outside of the tri-state area that are trying to help relatives that are in the tri-state area. Like I said, the worldwide influence. But I would say New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, very strong influence. And this is an influence that has developed without any advertising on our part. The concept from the beginning was not to advertise, and for various reasons, but the word of mouth has certainly done the job without us going forth and tooting our own horn to various newspapers, magazines, TV, whatever. So our name is well known throughout all those states, all the communities between social services, hospice, the VNA nurses, visiting nurses of all these hospitals, doctors, lawyers, all of the nursing homes, the people who are home care specialists, neighbors, friends, community groups through chat rooms and things like that. Everybody, sooner or later, if they're looking for equipment or looking to donate, they run into our name. And it's just an organic type of situation. So the concept from the beginning held strong and has proved itself out, because now most of the time we're able to satisfy the need, and we're able to take in the equipment that is wanted to be donated. And it's a nice balance between the space we have, our volunteer strength, our expertise, and the need of the community. So we rarely run out, and we rarely have too much where we can't handle it.
Talk a wee bit about eligibility. Who can come and borrow equipment?
Right. Our eligibility is wide open. We do not request, or we do not require any type of prescriptions from doctors, or proof of residentship, or proof of insurance, or how much money you make, how much money you have, how long you're going to keep it, do we think you're going to return it. We're wide open, and anybody that walks in the door basically and asks for something, if we have it available, we're going to provide it. And we've never run into a difficulty with that concept. We have I think, a very good return rate of equipment. And in fact, if it isn't returned, we feel like generally it got passed along to somebody else.
Right. Yeah.
Somebody else in the family, somebody else in the community, neighbors, and then if it gets passed along to somebody else in need, that's perfectly fine. That's all part of the process. So we don't keep track of things that come back in. We don't have a computer program where we're checking in wheelchair number 685. It's just too difficult, and frankly, it's really not necessary. It's a nice thing, because we often get people who don't have insurance, who don't or unqualified, or they're waiting for insurance to kick in, or their item is back ordered but they need it right away.
Right.
A whole long list of situations where we just hand over what they need, and they sign it out, and away they go.
Typically, how many folks are in touch with the ministry throughout in a typical year, in a typical period of time?
Right. That volume has increased over time, obviously. At the time of, let's say, 2 months ago, we were getting upwards of 50 to 70 calls a week, people calling in to the hotline, either wanting to donate equipment or wanting to check out equipment. So that's a pretty good call volume. But on top of that, a lot of calls come in directly to myself, or to Tom or Dave, or other guys who are out there, and the phone numbers are in the system, basically. And so personally, I would get maybe 10 direct calls a week. Tom would get a number of direct calls a week. So there's, that adds to the volume. And then, of course, there's just walk-in people that are regulars, or people heard that we're open on Saturdays 10 to 12, and they would just come in without calling, which is fine too.
Yeah.
So there's a big volume, very big volume. We started when I first started, we did it just by appointment. Then we decided we really needed some hours to be open consistently, so we did Saturdays 10 to 12. That got to be very busy. And then I and other guys retired or semi-retired, so we decided on Tuesdays and Mondays and Thursdays we would open up and just do work on equipment and organizational stuff and inventory control and that kind of thing. And then Mondays and Thursdays became days that people would come in, either to donate or take equipment out. So they became very busy. So, you know, there were basically 3 days a week that we were pretty consistently open. People knew we were open, and that increased the walk-in volume, which is fine, as long as we had equipment that was available. So, and then we were very fortunate to be able to use more of the chapel as our base. We were able to use the barn as an overflow, some of the barn as an overflow for inventory and inventory control and incoming control and inspection. We were able to use a couple of the little garden sheds that were left behind at the birdhouse for various purposes also. We, you know, have a specialist come in and pick up our metal recycling, and he takes up the metal recycling. So, you know, there's a long string of involved parts of this and involved people from throughout the community, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
We get people all the time wanting to volunteer too, that come in and see what we're doing, and they can help fix things, or they can come in on a Saturday, or, you know, for an hour or two. So it's really great.
So with MEM, I mean, you've already mentioned the relationship, right? There's a fellowship that you share among the volunteers. There's a relationship I know that you build with the clients, you know, that come in. I know you've got some folks that are repeat clients. You know, they come back and they have a need for something, they have a need for something else, and that's a relational ministry that you continue. Now, obviously, all of that is very, very hands-on. You know, you're working with people. You already said you're holding hands. You're praying with people. We're in a particular period right now where most of us are socially isolated. You know, we're in this period of quarantine due to the coronavirus. You know, tell us some of the decisions that have been made in relation to the medical equipment ministry and how this is impacting what you're doing right now.
Well, it's very, very difficult. We're used to helping people, and we can't. So when the virus first came to a head, before the church decided to close, we had our normal volume of calls for a week, and we said, how are we going to handle these calls? You know, these people are coming in to donate, they're coming in to pick up on our normal Saturday hours. So we had a meeting, we decided, look, let's try to do a drive-in situation where people will come in, they'll park their car, they won't come into our building, they'll, you know, we'll have people outside 6 feet away, we'll get a handle on what they need, we'll bring the equipment out to them in their car, and then they'll load the equipment into their car, and we'll all, you know, go our separate ways. So we did that for one Saturday. It worked out okay. We decided that it really was okay. But then other information came in as far as the virus lasting on hard equipment. How long will it last on a piece of metal? Or, you know, 4 days, 5 days, a week. And whereas we thought at first we could maybe continue this drive-in type situation, we may be able to sequester incoming equipment for a week and then, you know, then be able to hand it out. We may be able to hand out the equipment that we had in-house at the moment that we knew we had for over a week or 2 weeks or whatever. But in the long run, with the seriousness of everything, the church deciding to close, other churches deciding to close, and just, the difficulty of keeping distance and keeping equipment that we would be confident was virus free was really too much to handle. So we decided that we really had to shut down entirely. So right now we're not accepting any incoming equipment. We're not lending out any equipment. We all the calls, we're not getting calls coming in because the machine says we're closed, and we're biding our time basically. It's not easy. It's something that's open up on a Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, it was a hard call for the church, Well, it was initially, it felt like it was, it's a decision that was in our hands, and then there was a point at which the decision, was taken away from the church. You can't have X number of people gathering together, and that number got smaller and smaller. And I know that you're obviously, many of your clients are in that most vulnerable position. And as you've already mentioned, many of your volunteers are semi or retired. So although health-wise they're well and they're fit, at the same time, in terms of age, they're within that population as well. So I know that the decision that you made to put things on hold was for the health and for the welfare of the clients and for the volunteers. So and I know that folks would like to be serving, and folks that have a need would like to be able to have that need met. But there's the bigger picture that you were responding to. Tell us what are some of the next steps, in terms, and I know that's hard to say. I mean, as a church, that's hard. I mean, that's hard for us to say right now. We're keeping our eye on what is the what are the local authorities, what's the governor saying, what's been said in a federal level in terms of folks gathering, in terms of reaching out and ministering to other people. Those are decisions that we're kind of keeping tabs on. As you'll tell us just a wee bit about how you're keeping tabs on things and how you perceive the kind of next steps for the medical equipment ministry, John.
Yeah, well, it's a very tough question. For example, we have had calls, or we have called out to an organization that were looking for beds, hospital beds, let's say,
right?
Because they needed extra capacity. So we reached out because we had a dozen beds at the time, and that didn't come to fruition. Nursing home, they needed to set up a COVID ward, basically, and they needed beds. Now, Brandywine has brought us lots of beds over the years, and they sent a couple people in, and we provided 3 beds to them. We've heard through the grapevine that Atlantic Health might need beds, and we were poised and ready to provide beds to Atlantic Health if they wanted to come and pick them up and disinfect them themselves and send them out. So those were things that have been happening kind of in the background. In the future, what happens when we get the all clear, or when does the all clear come?
Yeah.
When the church decides, when our church decides, well, we're now all clear to open up. That will be one step right there. And then it's do we go to more of a degree as far as incoming equipment disinfecting? I don't know. We've talked about that also. I'm praying that we'll be able to function again.
Yeah.
We'll have the confidence of the medical service, social, home care, elder care community that will be able to function hopefully to the extent that we did before.
Yeah, yeah.
And we'll be poised to do it. I know the volunteers have kept in touch, and we're all ready and willing to get back at it when we're able to.
Yeah, so you still have that solid volunteer base. You still have the phone line, and that number's available on our church's website. I know that MEM doesn't have a website of its own, but that number's freely available on our church's website. And I'll make sure, John, that it's posted here as well. Now I know, for folks calling up right now, the organisation is not currently in operation, but it's good for folks to have access to that number. Yeah. I know that you all have worked really hard in terms of building relationships with nursing homes, with hospitals, with hospices, with other healthcare entities. Those relationships are still there, right? Those relationships have not gone anywhere. Yeah. So in terms of when the church is paying attention to when is a safe time to start opening again, what does that look like when we start opening again? Because we've got the Giving Nest preschool, we've got and the medical equipment ministry, we've got the Boy Scouts as part of our life. We've got other organisations that are part of our life as well. So when we're given the all clear, okay, you can open now. What does that look like? MEM's going to be very, very much a part of that next step for the church as well. But you do have all those relationships in place. So I know that you're poised. You still have all the equipment. I mean, the equipment's all still there, right?
We have a pretty good inventory.
Yeah.
And we don't like to have inventory. We like to have things that are out in service. Mm-hmm. And in the past, we'd always get nervous if we had only 2 wheelchairs instead of 22, but on the floor. But that always means that equipment is out there being used. Yeah. So we love to have equipment out in the community being used, and we'll, we have quite a bit of things that are ready to roll. We're praying for that time to come soon. We feel horribly for the people that need it, that became to rely on us. We know they all understand. For sure what the situation is, but still it's difficult not to be there.
Yeah. Well, John, thank you so much for taking the time today to, for those that have never heard of MEM, thank you for sharing the information, and thanks for giving us an update on where you are. I know that's impacting you personally. I mean, this is more than a hobby, right? This is a ministry that you're doing. You're kind of the de facto, along with some of the other guys, but you're kind of the de facto director of the program. And I know as a church, we're very, very grateful to you. We're grateful to the other guys, other volunteers who do all the work there. So thank you for speaking on their behalf. I just want to encourage the folks who are watching this to continue to pray for MEM. To continue to pray for us as a church and all the ministries that we're doing, but at this time particularly pray for the medical equipment ministry.
Well, we love to talk about it. We'd love to be there. We love the job.
Yeah.
We're ready to roll when we're able to get back in business.
And God willing, we'll be back again soon.
Absolutely.
God willing. John, God bless you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Take care.